Everybody, I want to make another video, and this is going to be about metric system and scientific notation, specifically the metric units and how I put them into scientific notation. And whenever we're talking about distance units, which is honestly one of the most important things you're going to use in chemistry, whether it's distance or whether mass units, the prefixes that I'm talking about right now apply. Um, every unit you see on here, these are all units of length. These are the standard metric units going from kilometers, meters, millimeters, micrometers, nanometers, and picometers. Now, some of you might have also added in the unit of centimeter in between meters and millimeters, but honestly, I want to keep it like this for now because these units are all 1,000 times apart. And I guess, in other words, what I'm saying is everything below it is 1,000 times smaller than the thing above it. Now, in our kind of daily lives, we don't normally start off with kilometers, but a meter stick is something that basically every classroom has in front of you. And a meter stick is basically, it's a little bit more than a yard, it's a little bit more than 3 feet. I think it's close to 40 inches, but still, that's our basis for all of our measurements. You know, if you chop a meter up 100 times, a meter chopped up, and as Mr. Swanson calling me. All right, if you take that 1 meter and chop it up 100 times, you get 100 centimeters, and 100 centimeters is a nice unit because it's kind of like the width of your pinky, kind of, just so it kind of puts it into the ballpark. Now, what I'm not going to be talking about today are unit conversions between kilometers to miles or meters to inches. Nothing like that. Just going from the basics of the length scale. All right. All right, I hit pause a couple minutes ago and I don't remember what I did. So basically, if we start with the biggest unit we have here, technically the base unit we said is the meter and everything else changes based on the prefix that's in front of it. You guys have seen the prefix K the past couple days when we talked about kilojoules. So there are 1,000 joules in 1 kilojoule. So the prefix is out in front definitely tells you how to modify the number. Um, so in a kilometer, there are 1,000 meters. And if you take one of those meters and chop it up 1,000 times, you get a millimeter. And on a meter stick, the millimeter marking is the smallest marking you can actually see. It's basically the thickness of a couple sheets of paper stacked together. All right. Now, it gets fun if you take one of those little millimeters. Like a meter stick has 1,000 pieces on it. What you can say, take one of those pieces and you chop it up 1,000 times and you get what's called a micrometer. So there's 1,000 micrometers, and that symbol here is actually the greatly exaggerated. The Greek letter mu, which is like literally mu, is how it's pronounced. So 1 millimeter is 1,000 micrometers, and when you get to the micrometer scale, we're talking about something like the size of human hair, the thickness of human hair. Don't quit yet. Take 1 micrometer, chop it up 1,000 times, and then you get the unit, something we call a nanometer. And when you get something on the size scale of a nanometer, we're talking about the diameter of some atoms. All right, atoms tend to have a diameter of about half a nanometer, 2/10 of a nanometer, that type of thing. But last but not least, take that nanometer, take one of them, chop it up 1,000 times yet again, and you get the unit of a picometer. And picometers are, these are like the diameters of parts of atoms. So things like neutrons or protons, or I don't want to say electrons, but these are the truly small portions of atoms. So you basically have a size scale which goes, and I don't want to go from kilometers. I want to stay with meters here. You have a size scale which goes from the meter stick, which you guys are all familiar with, and from the meter stick down. If I want to go from meters down to picometers, I take 1 meter and take it 1,000, multiply it by 1,000, multiply it by 1,000, multiply it by 1,000, and that's basically 1,000, all those times. And so that basically means 1 meter broken up. If you do the math here, 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000, you get 1 times 10 to the 12. So 1 meter equals 1 times 10 to the 12 picometers, which is fantastically large. This is a picometer is a quadrillion. So take that meter stick you're holding in front of you and chop it apart a quadrillion times. And each little tiny piece is a picometer. If you do the same, but you don't want to go that far down, if you want to go from a meter down to a nanometer, that's 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000. 1 meter chopped a billion times, 1 times 10 to the 9 will get you to the nanometers. And I screwed up my n again. It should be n and then m. So another way you can look at it is your meter stick divided a billion times. The smallest piece is a nanometer. If you want to do that one more time, a meter is equivalent to 1 times 10 to the 1,000 times 1,000, 1 times 10 to the 6 micrometers. Your meter stick is made up of a million. 1 times 10 to the 6 is a million micrometers. And I don't care how you look at this. Otherwise, it's a pretty impressive feat to go um, uh, 1,000 billion times from here, a meter, all the way down to the picometer. It's a pretty amazing thing. So one of the questions people ask is, how do I convert back and forth? What if I'm given some measurements? How do I go back and forth? And I say, well, take this into account. They take this type of thing into account. We forgot another unit on here. If I want to go from meters to millimeters, meters to millimeters is basically just a factor of 1,000. So a millimeter is obviously smaller than a meter, so I need 1,000 millimeters to be equivalent to 1 meter. So let's try some math. All right, so one of the things you might be asked to do is convert metric units. Not talking metric to English, I'm just talking metric to metric. You need to know the basics of what connects millimeters to meters. So how do I convert 35 millimeters to meters? Well, the first thing I can do is just write down the number 35 and then multiply it by something times 10 to the something. Well, what's the connection between millimeters to meters? If you go back to the previous slide, you know that 1,000 millimeters is equal to 1 meter. And another way you could write this is basically the reverse. 1 millimeter is equivalent to 1,000th of a meter. What's 1,000th of a meter? 1,000th of a meter, say that 10 times fast, is 1 times 10 to the minus 3. A quadrillionth of a meter, 1 picometer, equals 1 times 10 to the minus 12 meters. You can do the same thing with nanometers. 1 nanometer, I keep screwing up my nanometers. This should be an N. What's the matter with me? Equals 1 times 10 to the minus 9 meters. So a meter is a billionth of a nanometer. You're right, I totally screwed that up. A nanometer is a billionth of a meter. And just for sake of completeness, 1 micrometer is a millionth of a meter. So this is 1 times 10 to the minus 6 meters. I'm not saying you have to memorize this stuff, but you should be able to eventually go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. If 1 meter to 10 to the 12 picometers, or 1 picometer equals 1 times 10 to the minus 12 meters. You should be able to do that conversion back and forth. So if I have a conversion like this, 35 millimeters, I want to change it to meters. I know the conversion is there's 1,000 millimeters in a meter, or a millimeter is a 1 times 10 to the minus 3. So I'm going to write 35 times 10 to the minus 3 meters. And if you're in a math class and they want you to fix this, you can change this to 3.5. If you make this number go down, you have to make this number go bigger. 3.5 times 10. So to make this a negative 3 get bigger, it becomes a negative 2. So 35 millimeters is equivalent to 3.5 times 10 to the 2 meters. What about a number, let's say you got a nice round number, how about, okay, what if you wanted to go 175 micrometers to meter? I'm going to do the same type of thing. I'm going to write out 175 times, whoops, that was a really terrible times. All right, that's better. 175 times 10, and then what's the relationship between micrometers to meters? I know 1 micrometer is equal to 1 times 10 to the minus 6 meters. So 175 micrometers is 175 times 10 to the minus 6. And this is technically an answer. If you want to put the answer in something that makes more sense to you, the decimal place is technically here. You can move the decimal 2 places to the left. When you make this number smaller, you have to make the exponent bigger. So when you make this 1.75 times 10 to the minus something. To make this number, when you make this number small, you make this number bigger. To make this number bigger, the exponent has to go down, so this becomes 1.75 times 10 to the minus 4. So this is the type of thing you should be able to do. One of the things I gave you guys in class, or I hope my goal is you eventually can do this. One of the things I said in class was, let's say you had 200 picometers, convert that to meters. So I know I'm going to write this over. All I'm going to do is write down what I see. 200, and I'm going to multiply it by something in scientific notation. 200 times 10. And what's the relationship between picometers to meters? I know 1 picometer is a billionth, I'm sorry, quadrillionth of a meter, or 1 picometer is 1 times 10 to the minus 12 meters, so 200 picometers must be 200 times 10 to the minus 12. Okay, and again, if you don't want to leave it like that, make this number smaller, this number needs to be bigger. This becomes 2 times 10 to the minus 10 meters. All right, now, there's something kind of sinister about leaving off these zeros, and for now, we haven't talked about significant figures, so we'll just kind of leave it at that. All right, listen, this is just a basic metric system review. Everything we did here with meters to millimeters, talking about length units, we can do this exact same thing talking about mass units. And look, let's be honest, we don't always deal with some crazy mass units. I like to deal with the kilogram and the gram, but I just once in a while I'll throw milligrams, and yeah, you know what? I'm going to mess with you guys this year. I'm going to throw micrograms and nanograms at you. But I'm not going to do anything of the really weird stuff like decigrams. Like who's ever heard of that unit, right? Anyways, that's what I got for now. I hope you guys watch this, get like a little bit of a refresher. And if you have some questions, don't hesitate to let me know. All right? All right, cheers.